from Tarot with Dina. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am looking at court cards. This deck is actually the classic tarot, but it's in a mini. So I can have a grid here where you've got, you know, the ranks this way: pages, knights, queens, kings, and then the suits going horizontally. So you have the swords, wands, cups, and pentacles. And what I wanted to do was show each of the decks that I'm going through. I wanted to show the court cards in a grid like this because I think it makes a really nice way of comparing, because you could compare the swords to each other, the wands to each other, but you could also compare the queens to each other or the kings. However, although this fits with the mini deck, with the larger decks, it is just not going to work. So I'm still going to go through, rather than one card at a time, like Page of Swords from a bunch of decks, I'm going to go through one deck at a time, and I'm going to show 4 cards at a time. So I think for a lot of them I'll do the suits, and then for a few of them I might do the ranks. But we will go through and we will look at some of my favorite court cards from all my tarot decks. So let's get started. So this is the Robin Wood Tarot. This is the Page, Knight, Queen, and King of Swords. So she's added a lot of symbolism to show that this is an air sign. So you've got birds and clouds, a lot of blue colors. I think I'm just going to push these up off the frame so that you can see when you get to the wands. Now we have fire, and you can see that horse has fire for its tail and mane. There's firecrackers on the page's waistband here. You've got the sunflowers, a lot of yellows and reds. So for the cups, we have water. So the Knight of Cups has like a mermaid kind of tail on the horse. There's a lot of water and sort of like a sunset over the ocean kind of color palette here. A lot of luxurious fabrics that mimic the water. And then for pentacles, because it's earth, you have a lot of greens and a lot of harvest. You've got, even on the hem of her apron here, there are like little harvest vegetables and stuff that show some of the same things that are shown around her in the card. And you have this, the horse here is like, he's bigger and heavier than some of the other horses because he's so earthy and grounded. This was one of the first decks where I really learned the court cards. And I like how Robin Wood added a lot of clues to the meanings. Like in the pages, each of the pages actually has a little symbol. So we have a book for the pentacles because she's studious. We have a palette for the Page of Cups because she's artistic. Firecrackers because the Page of Wands is fiery. And then a telescope because the Page of Swords likes to explore. So I like in the Robin Wood Tarot how each of the suits has a cohesive look, and at the same time each of the ranks also has a cohesive look. So if you're looking at, for example, all of the queens, you know, versus all of the pages, I think this is a really easy deck to learn with. And you know, it was the first one where I really understood what the court cards symbolized. So that's why it made my short list of favorite court cards from any deck. So the next deck is the Book of Shadows, So Below. And what I like about this one is that it shows the same person in each suit. So for the suit of swords, you have this blonde woman, and she is the knave, the knight, the queen, and the king. So it's showing how one person, takes on each of these roles and becomes each of these people. So whether she's like playful like the knave, or whether she has mastered something like the king, it's showing one character. So here we have, in the wands, we have this woman with the red hair going through basically like the phases from knave to knight to queen to king. And it looks like what she was learning in hers was magic. And then we have this guy in the chalices. So again, it's the same character. So each suit has a character. So you have the person from swords who is blonde, and the person from wands who's a redhead, and then you have this guy in the chalices. You have him like looking into a pool of water, or sitting by a riverbank up against a tree, helping someone who's going through an emotionally rough time. Or as the king of chalices, he's helping some children learn art. And then the pentacles also follows a character. So I think what I like about the court cards from the So Below deck is that by showing the same character all the way through the ranks, it really shows how, sometimes they say that a court card can represent other people, but it can also represent aspects of yourself. So which aspect of yourself are you embodying? And it really shows how one character can embody each of those aspects. So that is why I really like the court cards from the So Below Tarot. Okay, this is the Druidcraft Tarot, and I have trimmed this one. Actually, I've trimmed it since it appeared in some of the earlier videos where I was going through cards that I like. So in this deck, you have the princess, the prince, and the queen and king. So these are the swords. And the wands, and these also have color schemes. So the swords had a lot of blues, there's a lot of reds and oranges in the wands. I mean, I do like the gender balance of having the princesses instead of pages and the prince instead of knights. Although, when you have the ranks and you have the suits, when you have the genders like princess, prince, queen, king, it almost still seems like patriarchal, because the princes outrank the princess and the kings outrank the queen. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but there's like a gender balance, but it's still like the man is still the king and the woman is still, like obviously the princess is the lowest rank. I don't know, I'm probably overthinking that, but sometimes I just like if they stick with page, knight, queen, king, but sometimes it doesn't bother me if they do change it a little bit. This is probably one of the changes that doesn't bother me. So these ones are the cups. I really think this Princess of Cups is very beautiful. Actually, all the princesses in this deck I think are just beautiful cards. That's probably why the Druidcraft, makes the list of favorite court cards. This deck in general is just very expressive. So I like that the court cards have personalities and that you can really get a lot, because a lot of times court cards are just basically, it's someone posing for a picture. So you're trying to look at the picture that they've posed for and learn something about them. So the Queen of Pentacles, she has like a drum and she has a bone that she's using for the drumstick. So they're posing with things that are important to them in some way, that give you clues to who they are. And I think there's a lot of information. So for this deck, the princesses were one of the things that I really liked about this deck. So this is what they look like as a set of the princesses. So this is the Druidcraft court cards. This is the Soul Cats. This deck is one of my favorite of the newer decks. I got this just within the last few months and I really like this one. So in the Soul Cats, it's like the same cat or the same breed of cat carried throughout. So it's sort of like the So Below deck in that you're following like one cat or family of cats. So we have sort of an Egyptian theme going on with the swords. We have like a pyramid here. We have a statue. You know, you've got the air, you've got the dragonfly, some just like prayer flags. So these are the swords. And this is also, it's page, knight, queen, king. So pretty standard there. Then we have this beautiful kitty cat. I love this Queen of Wands. She's looking straight at the viewer. So the pages have these little goggles, like almost like steampunk goggles. So I guess they're like, I don't know if they're explorers or why they have those goggles, but that's kind of cool. And this one has it too. You can see here the Queen of Cups is on a boat in the water. It's kind of turbulent and she's like going on an adventure on her little pillow. And like the king on each of them has like a little kitty cat beard. And the pentacles. I mean, honestly, I think that the Queen of Pentacles in this deck is one of my favorite Queen of Pentacles in any tarot deck ever. But I just think the Soul Cats is just really, really sweet. And I like how there's a different breed of cats for each of the suits. If you know a lot about different cat breeds, and you know, you can read those meanings into it, or you can just read their body language. You know, the pages are exploring things, and the queens are like, she's got blackberries. They're like, you know, just in their domain and looking just regal. So this is the Soul Cats. So this deck is the Forest of Enchantment. And this is a fairy tale themed deck that I really, really like. Like whenever I pull this deck out, I think, oh my gosh, I need to write fiction. And then I don't write fiction, but I think about it. The deck inspires me to think that I'm going to write fiction. Now this one actually changes the suits and the ranks. So we have Child of Challenges, Seeker of Challenges, Weaver of Challenges, and Keeper of Challenges. So the swords here are called challenges. And then I think it's still easy to understand. So you have Child, Seeker, Weaver, and Keeper. You know, and I think the Weaver of Challenges, you can see that that's a Queen of Swords. So even though there are changes, they're not changes where the deck becomes unreadable. I think it's still extremely readable, and they're changes that are easy to understand. So here we have the Child, Seeker, Weaver, and Keeper of Spells. So they represent the wands, and that's why they're fiery. So the child is kind of starting out and hasn't lit his torch or wand yet. And then the Seeker, you know, is just seeking, just, you know, setting out with her torch. By the time you get to the Weaver, she's dancing and there's magic all around. And then the Keeper has become the master of his element. So I like that it's still really clear what the cards are. So for the cups we have visions. Now in this one, the Keeper of Visions has like shapeshifted into a fish. Probably fairy tale related. If I would read the books, I would probably know a lot more about why they make these choices, but I'm notoriously bad about reading the books. There's like a little spider web over here with the Child of Vision. She's like dancing in the rain. I always love this deck. It's just so inspiring. Here we have like the Child of Boons is like Hansel over here, and he's going up to this gingerbread house. I love fairy tales. I've always loved fairy tales and any retellings or modern interpretations of fairy tales. So for pentacles, we have boons. So we have the Child, Seeker, Weaver, and Keeper of Boons. So this is the Forest of Enchantment, and just a really sweet deck that I really should get this one out more and play with it more. I really like this a lot. This deck is the Lightseers Tarot. So this is one of those decks that just reads really well straight out of the box. It has sort of a modern feel to it. I really like this Knight of Swords, and he's got like a crossbow on his back. There's a bird in the sky, and he's running toward a motorcycle. It's like so action movie or even video game. Like, you know, my sons play a lot of video games, and this kind of reminds me of them and the kind of viewpoint you get from some of the games that they play. The Page of Swords has these light bulbs because they're always getting ideas. You know, so you've got birds in the suit of swords. Let's see, in the wands, you've got the fire element. The Page of Wands looks like she is going to drop that wand on her head, which I have done with a baton, and that hurts. The Queen of Wands has her little kitty. The King of Wands has a lion, and he has his back to the lion because he's comfortable because he's the king. Here we have the cups. So the Knight of Cups, like a lot of times people talk about the Knight of Cups being kind of like a romantic or even a player. And here he's got like roses. There's a love letter here. So he's, you know, he's like the Jack of Hearts in a regular card deck. He's like Mr. Romantic over here. And then here we have the Pentacles. I really love this Queen of Pentacles. I know, like I just said, the Soul Cat's Queen of Pentacles is like my favorite Queen of Pentacles, but then I see the Lightseers Tarot and I'm like, and she's also my favorite Queen of Pentacles. They're both very, very beautiful. I think I just love Queen of Pentacles. I mean, I'm a Leo, so the Queen of Wands, you know, is supposed to be my card, but a lot of times the Queen of Pentacles is just so lush and just so beautiful. So this is the Lightseers Tarot. This deck is the Modern Love Tarot. And it's another deck where it depicts a lot of really modern scenes that make it easy to understand the characters on the cards. So I really like that. I wish that there was a little bit more color contrast in the Queen of Swords because I feel like she gets lost there a little bit. It might be one of my less favorite cards.
It's like a Spider Queen or a Queen of Death or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just so dark.
It is dark. I wish there was... Yeah, yeah.
Everything else is like bright and everyone's happy and having a good time.
She's not happy. She has her sword and she is sort of glaring a little bit.
It's like the last card of the deck the artist had to make. I'm done with this.
But it's one of Ethany's decks, and she uses the Queen of Swords to, you know, like she's a Gemini and she uses the Queen of Swords to symbolize herself, so I'm not quite sure what she was saying there with that one.
Sorry,
And here we have the Wands. So like I'm a Leo, and here the Queen of Wands is like a bodybuilder. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I should be. I could be. All I have to do is get up and start exercising. Yeah. Get up from watching HGTV and actually use some weights.
That is the king of fabulous.
Yeah. he's a bit much, but that's good, right? He's flamboyant, as wands tend to be. I really like the Page of Wands. Probably in this deck, the Page of Wands is one of my favorite cards. We have the Cups, and I mean, yes, the Knight of Cups in this one is Lucifer. So if you've ever watched the television show Lucifer, it's on Netflix now. That is Lucifer in the Knight of Cups.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh.
And then here we have the Pentacles. So in this deck, the pages were all children. And then, you know, kind of standard king and queen. It was probably the knights that varied the most from a traditional. I mean, the Knight of Wands was on a horse, but a lot of them, well, I guess if you think of like Lucifer's car for the knight is like, represents the horse. And there is a horse in the background, and then there's a horse in the background here, and she's on a bicycle, like a modern interpretation. I like the little doggy here. So, and the Modern Love Tarot is very expressive and easy to read just because it shows modern people that we can relate to. Got like a craftsman for the King of Pentacles. Alright, this deck is called the This Might Hurt Tarot. And it's another one with some modern interpretations of the cards. It seems like, you know, some people like the more historical or old-fashioned kind of decks where it feels like you're entering another world because they're mystical and it helps you feel more like you're entering another world. And then some people like a more modern interpretation. A lot of times I do like a more modern interpretation just because it seems like I can relate to it right away, just straight out of the box, since I'm usually not reading the book, and I probably should. But I like that it feels like you can just see the characters and understand them right away. So here we have, the knights are on motorcycles. I think all of them are. Yeah, we've got motorcycles. So here we have the wands. Like the Queen of Wands seems to have the most traditional imagery in tarot almost. It's like she always has a black cat and she always has a sunflower, and it pretty much, that's almost universal regardless of what the deck is. A lot of the other ones have a lot more variation, but the Queen of Wands always has her kitty cat and her sunflower, it seems like. Here we have the cups, and the Knight of Cups is also on a motorcycle, but the cup is a little coffee cup from their favorite coffee shop. And the page has a little pet fish. I like how there's also like age diversity. There's like a lot of decks have different kinds of diversity, but then everybody looks like they're 16 or 18 years old. But there are people of various ages shown in This Might Hurt Tarot.
Oh, this might hurt if you drive and drink a coffee.
Oh no.
At the same time.
That's probably not safe behavior.
It's definitely gonna hurt.
You can't drink your coffee on your motorcycle. You're gonna have to wait until you get home and drink that, or drink it while you're at the coffee shop. But yeah, all of the knights in this deck have motorcycles instead of horses, so I really like that. And again, the Queen of Pentacles tends to be one of the prettier cards. It seems like in any of the decks, the Queen of Pentacles seems to be one of the prettier cards. So this one is This Might Hurt. So this deck is one of my absolute favorites. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot. Deborah Blake is one of my favorite authors. and her deck is one of my favorites. And there's an oracle, and there's a mini version. Of course, I have all of them. So these are the swords. This King of Swords, he kind of has like a high fantasy feel with all the books, and he's in like a tower of a castle. He's up high and you can see the birds there and the little kitty. You know, Deborah Blake has cats represented a lot in her decks as well as in her books. She's a real cat lover, so there's kitty cats, I think, on all or almost all of her cards. I think this might actually be the artist interpretation of Deborah Blake. Like, it really looks like her. Here we have the Knight of Wands is out, you know, on a quest, and there's a dragon. The kitty cat is lending some magic to his wand. One thing that just sort of gets me in this deck, though, is that this Page of Wands looks like the Fool to me. Like, when I see this, I think the card is the Fool, but it's the Page of Wands. So that sort of confused me right off the bat, but I guess I got used to it. This is the Cups. So again, the Knight of Cups here has these hearts because he's romantic, and sort of as a nod to the Robin Wood tarot, the Page of Cups here is painting. So one interesting thing in this deck is that the Ten of Cups actually depicts the characters that are in, or some of the characters that are in the court cards. So you have the King, the Queen, the Page. And then also they did the same thing in the Pentacles. I love the King of Pentacles in this deck because he has chocolate cake. Who doesn't love a man with chocolate cake? But in the Ten of Pentacles for this deck, you know, you have the Queen, the King, the Knight, and the Page. And there's also an extra baby, and here you have the dog, and of course one of their cats. So I think it's really interesting that the Ten of Cups has some of the court cards, the Ten of Pentacles has all of the court cards. So then I pulled out, you know, Swords and Wands to see if the tens had the characters from the court cards, and sadly they didn't. I kind of wish they did, because I think this is just a really nice touch. So it has them in families, and then it shows them together as families. So actually, I mean, out of all of the decks that I've shown, I think really that the Everyday Witch Tarot really is my favorite. It's not just because the King has chocolate cake, although he has chocolate cake, but I think having them, you know, in the tens kind of adds a little weight to it. I do really like the Robin Wood as well with this, probably because, you know, I did originally learn to interpret court cards from that deck, but I think that the Everyday Witch is just really a favorite of mine. The whole deck is a favorite of mine. She's got a little witch's hat on the back of her throne. So this has been my favorite court cards from all of my decks. It's not, I didn't pull out all of my decks, but I did when I was looking for which ones were my favorite court cards. So that's all I've got for you today, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell for notifications. I post new videos every Wednesday.